To reverse type 2 diabetes, you often need an important change in your diet. In this video, we'll focus on the top 7 foods to avoid. Learning this can help lower your blood sugar levels and keep you on track to reverse diabetes. I'll help you make simple lifestyle changes that reverses diabetes and other chronic illnesses. Okay, so let's dive straight in. Number 1 is to reduce your carb intake. One of the major misconceptions people often have is that they think diabetes is only a disease because people eat too much sugary foods and that you can simply reverse it by just cutting out cakes. Whilst that may help, you see there is a little bit of a misunderstanding there because there are these things called carbs which are starch, and when you break starch down you make sugar. So essentially starch is a long chain of sugar molecules and it goes inside your body. Your body has these things called enzymes which act as scissors and they basically chop it down into glucose, which is sugar, and it's high levels of this glucose, which is part of the problem in diabetes. So even if you don't eat any sugary foods, if you're eating starchy food, it can cause a rise in your sugar levels. Okay, so what should you actually do? Well, the very first step is to choose healthier starches. And there is this thing called a glycemic index and high glycemic score, which is usually a bad thing, and this is because they get broken down into sugar quickly. And that's sugary things like white bread, potatoes, and ideally you try and avoid these, and things with a low glycemic index are things like brown bread and pasta, whole grain foods, lentils and those kind of things. They often take a little bit more time for it to be broken down from starch down to the sugar molecule. And because it takes longer to break down, it means you don't get that rapid rise in your blood sugar levels. And these low glycemic index foods can also take a little bit longer to process in your stomach, which can help people feel a little bit fuller, and if you feel full, you eat less, and generally that's good for your health and good for your weight. Now, the caveat to that is that not all low glycemic foods are good for you. For example, chocolate can be a low glycemic food. And so it's important that you add it together with a number of different things like exercise, like living a healthy lifestyle. Okay, on to number 2, and that is to avoid bacon and other processed meats. When we talk about processed meats, we're talking about things like salamis, hot dogs, your burgers, bacon. They are deceptively unhealthy, and not only are they linked with a number of cancers, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, but they also tend to be very high in fat and make you gain weight as well. So a general rule of thumb for those kind of things is avoid it as much as you can. Number 3 is avoid microwave meals and takeaways. Often these are high in starch, not the good type of starch. They're high in salts and that's not good for you. And they're high in sugars as well. And we tend to eat larger portions when we're out because tend to finish the food on our plate. And it's just generally not great for our health. And I have to say I've seen quite a sharp rise in people using and being dependent on these food delivery apps. We explored this a little bit more in a documentary style video I did a few months ago, and you can click up here to see that. But generally those things are not good for your health. Avoid takeaways if you can, and if you are getting a takeaway every week, consider just dropping that down to every month or every 2-3 weeks. And that can make an important difference in your health, your weight, and also your wallet. Okay, number 4 is the hidden sugar trap. So by now most people have an idea that sugary foods are good for you and they try and keep away from them. But I would say there are some foods or some things that do have quite a bit of sugar that people may not know about. So your common things like your Coca-Colas and sugary drinks, people already know about it. But if we look at some things like, say you are cooking your own meal and you want to make a spaghetti bolognese, what are you going to do? You are going to chop up a few vegetables. You are going to use one of those sauces, ready-made. They're a tomato-based sauce. Actually those kind of sauces, your Domio, Lloyd's Grossman sauces are really packed with sugar. And it's so much healthier just to chop up your own tomatoes, let it simmer on low heat, and create your own sauces, because the ones you buy from the supermarket are not going to be healthy for you. Alright, the other one is to avoid flavored coffees at coffee shops. You know, your Halloween crapper, frappuccino, whatever it's called. I don't get them. People that get them will know what I mean. They are packed full of sugar. They are literally like bucket loads of sugar, so avoid them. There was a study that looked at some of them and some of the large. You know, once of these drinks can have as much as 11 teaspoons of sugar, so crazy amounts of sugar in those. Other things that have like ninja levels of sugar in them is tomato ketchup and your BBQ sauces and things like that. And if you're having a small serving with your chips or your BBQ, they will probably have 1 teaspoon of sugar in there, and you probably won't really notice it because it's not your classic sweet food. So over the course of the day, these can build up. So I always say to my patients, it's important to look at the packaging of the food that you buy, making sure that you're not getting things that are too sugary. And remember, for an adult, it's 30 grams of sugar per day is the maximum. It's not like a target that you have to hit 30. You want to hit under 30, ideally. And just in case you need to visualize that, that's about 7 cubes of sugar. Don't know why that would be helpful, but just in case it is, number 5 is to avoid unhealthy fats. You see, not all fats are the same. You have some fats that are good, some fats that are bad, some fats that are a little bit in the middle. If you have a look at this table here, you'll see them listed with the types of foods that they are in. And generally speaking, monounsaturated fats are good and they are nut-based fats. They're found in olive oil, so generally kind of Mediterranean diet kind of stuff. Polyunsaturated fats are also quite good, and they're found in oily fish like salmon, and both of these in moderation and small amounts can be quite good for you. If you overdo it and eat a kilogram of each, then what are you doing? Just don't do that. Just have it in small amounts. It'll be good for you. And so you should try and avoid your saturated and trans fats. These are fried food takeaways, processed foods, the kind of things that we've talked about. And these are generally classed as unhealthy fats and they can make your bad cholesterol go up. And that's your LDL. And too much cholesterol can obviously increase your risk of having lots of problems like stroke, heart disease and general badness for your body. And although fats don't directly cause a rise in your blood sugar levels over time, these fats can make you put on weight. They can increase your insulin resistance and also increase your chance of developing type 2 diabetes. Okay, so number 6 is avoid alcohol. The prevailing for the moment in the medical community is probably no level of alcohol is really great for you. It used to be that we used to say try and limit it below 21 units a week for men and then it's dropped down to 14 units a week. And in the last year the WHO has released a statement to say they don't think any level of alcohol is actually good for you. So you should ideally try and avoid it if you can. I remember back in the day about 15 years ago when I was in medical school and I talked to my granddad about this. He is a diabetic and he was a diabetic at the time. And he would speak to his doctor and his doctor would say, actually a glass of wine a night it's actually not too bad for you. You should keep up with that and he would drink it. But actually, the prevailing thought at the moment is it's probably not going to be great for you. And certainly when you're diabetic, alcohol can make a rise in your sugar levels. And also if it's really rich in calories, which is not going to be great because you'll put on weight and that can worsen your diabetes control. And also, if you're on certain diabetes medication or insulin, if you're drinking regularly, you're more at risk of having hypo episodes. These are very low blood sugar levels, which can become very dangerous. And the caveat to this would be that lists like this, where doctors tell you things you should never do, can seem quite daunting. And if you like a drink every now and then, you may think, well, do I have to give that up? Well, not necessarily like. Do things in moderation is such a good saying. Like if you have a drink at Christmas or at somebody's birthday, it probably isn't going to do too much harm for you. If you drink every other night or every night and you're wondering, what can I do to get my diabetes under better control? Then that definitely is an area to focus on. Number 7 is to avoid dried fruits and just go for fresh fruit. That's a better option. But why, doc? I thought fruit's good for me. Why can't I have dried fruit? It's a nice snack. Why are you going to mess with me? I'm not messing with you. Just trying to educate you here. See, it's about more of the process of what happens to fruit when it's dried. And if you look at this mango here, maybe in 100 grams you have 15 grams of sugar if it's a fresh fruit. But if you've got it dried in that same amount, you've probably got about 75 grams of sugar. So that's quite a big difference. And generally you see so much high sugar levels in dry fruit because the water has been removed from them in the process and it's more concentrated, meaning that they are higher in sugar and calories compared to the fresh versions. And you can also lose out on some vitamins and minerals in the process. So best thing to do is just go for your fresh, healthy fruit if you're going for snacks. So there you have the top 7 foods to avoid if you want to try and reverse your diabetes. And if you're wondering, doc, I'm going to do that. I've got it. What do I now need to replace those foods with to keep my sugar levels lower? Well, I got you. I'll be doing a video next week on this. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like and I'll see you on that video. Peace.